All right, so today we're diving into poetry slams.
Nice.
But get this, our main source. It's not some poetry collection.
Right.
It's this Medium article, Why Being Naked in a Courtroom is Still a Bad Idea.
Catchy title, huh?
You think? I mean, what does that even have to do with poetry?
Well, the author, Steven Pinkwart,
Yeah?
he uses this kind of crazy story, this courtroom thing, to make a point
Okay, I'm intrigued.
about mastering the rules.
Rules, like grammar rules for writing.
And not just that, it's more like
Right.
understanding the underlying structure, the dynamics of whatever you're doing.
So like the rules of the game.
Exactly. And he uses this wild anecdote to illustrate it.
All right, play on me.
So picture this. Florida, 1983.
Oh, this is already good.
Two women, Miss Parker and Miss Lane,
Okay.
they're in court accused of violating these laws against nudity in restaurants.
Nudity in restaurants, that's a thing.
Apparently so in Florida, at least back then.
Wow.
So you've got this stuffy courtroom, a bored judge, a prosecutor who's probably loving the drama.
I can picture it.
Everyone's waiting to see what happens.
Then,
These women, they totally turn the tables.
what do they do?
They turn around,
Yeah.
lift their skirts,
No, what?
and reveal opaque underwear.
Opaque underwear. Seriously.
Yep. Technically not nude, but definitely pushing the limits.
That is brilliant.
Right. They knew exactly what they were doing.
They totally outsmarted everyone
They understood the rules, found a loophole.
and used it to their advantage.
Exactly.
So how does this connect to poetry slams?
Well, that's where Pinkwart's analogy comes in.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He compares a poetry slam to a courtroom battle.
Okay, I can see where this is going.
The audience, they're the jury.
Gotcha.
Your poem, that's your defense.
Interesting.
And your performance, that's your weapon.
Whoa, hold on. Weapon.
He even says you want your delivery to cut deep, leave a mark on the audience.
Okay, now that's intense.
He's definitely playing up the drama, but it emphasizes the power a poet can have.
Right, like Miss Parker and Miss Lane.
Exactly.
They controlled that whole courtroom.
Just with some well-placed underwear.
And a deep understanding of the rules.
Precisely.
So, Pinkwart's saying poets need that same level of control over their audience.
To evoke strong emotions, yeah.
So how do we go from, courtroom chaos to poetry slam champions?
Practice.
Practice. Like writing more poems.
Consistent writing.
He makes it sound like training for a boxing match.
Well, he actually compares it to that.
He does.
You wouldn't jump into the ring after training once, would you?
Definitely not. I'd
Okay.
get knocked out in an instant.
Exactly. Same goes for writing. Regular practice, he argues, it transforms your words into weapons.
Makes sense. Sharp and impactful, ready to move the audience.
That's the idea.
So any specific training regimen he recommends?
He has this thing he calls the morning routine for future slam gods.
Okay, that sounds ambitious.
It's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah.
Set a timer, 10 minutes.
Huh.
Write nonstop, whatever comes to mind.
Just brain dump onto the page.
Pretty much. And then read it aloud.
So performing it for your bathroom mirror.
Exactly. He believes it helps sharpen your thoughts, your punchline.
And it gets those creative juices flowing early on.
That too.
But what if the first few tries are, not exactly award-winning material?
He says even if it feels like trash at first,
Crash.
his words, not mine.
Okay, so even if it's garbage, just keep writing.
Keep writing, keep refining, keep practicing.
Because eventually, those scribbles will turn into...
Lyrical knockout punches.
Now that's a visual I can get behind.
It's about honing your craft, mastering the tools of language.
Just like those rule-bending ladies in the courtroom.
Exactly. They knew how to use the system to their advantage.
And make a powerful statement in the process.
And that's what Pinkwart wants for poets too. To command attention, to evoke a reaction.
To make their words truly matter.
Precisely. And it all starts with consistent practice.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection here.
From courtroom antics to poetry slams, it's all about understanding the rules.
And then bending them to your will.
Well, maybe not bending them, but definitely using them strategically.
To create something impactful and memorable.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway here.
All right, I'm sold. So what's the next step on this path to poetry slam mastery?
Well, Pinkwart has a whole book that delves deeper into these concepts.
Of course he does. Every good self-help guru needs the book, right?
It's called The Poetry Master.
Okay, so what's the deal with this book? Is it like a cheat sheet for poetry slams?
You could say that. He claims it can teach you how to control your audience.
Control the audience. That sounds a little, I don't know, manipulative.
Well, it's more about understanding how to evoke those strong emotional responses we talked about.
Ah, so like making them laugh, cry, think, all with your words.
Exactly. And that takes skill.
So it's not just about rhyming words and snapping your fingers. There's an art to it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But let's be real. Most of us aren't going to be performing on a stage anytime soon.
Right.
So how does this all relate to, real life?
That's a great question. I think the key takeaway here is the idea of being intentional with our communication.
Intentional. How so?
Think about those women in the courtroom.
Okay.
They didn't just accidentally create that powerful moment.
True.
They planned it. They thought about the rules, the context, their audience.
And they crafted their actions accordingly.
Precisely. They were strategic.
So it's about thinking about the impact we want to have.
And choosing our words and actions carefully.
So whether we're writing a poem, giving a presentation, or even just talking to a friend,
Right.
we can use these principles to be more effective communicators
Exactly. It's about recognizing the power of our words.
and using them to get the results we want.
That's the essence of it.
Okay, now I feel like I'm starting to become a master manipulator.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Just kidding. But seriously, it's not just about being clever with words, right?
It's about understanding the dynamics of communication, the power of performance.
And the importance of being intentional with our message. Exactly. And it all starts with that simple act of writing every morning.
Who knew a 10-minute scribble session could lead to such profound insights?
Well, Pinkwart seems to think so.
And after that courtroom story, I'm inclined to believe him.
He definitely has a way of making you think.
So, aside from scribbling away in our notebooks,
What else does Pinkwart recommend on this poetic journey?
because, let's be honest, I'm ready to unleash my inner wordsmith now.
Well, he does have a few more tricks up his sleeve.
Right, spill the beans.
He talks about the importance of finding your voice, of being authentic.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because in poetry, like in life, it's the genuine stuff that connects with people.
Right, like those women in the courtroom.
Exactly. They weren't afraid to be themselves, even if it meant breaking a few norms.
And that's what made their statement so powerful.
It was authentic, it was unexpected, it was memorable.
So, finding your voice, being authentic.
That's a good starting point.
But how do you actually do that? I mean, it sounds great in theory.
Well, that's where Pinkwart's book comes in again.
The Poetry Master.
Yep. He dives deeper into those concepts, gives practical advice.
So it's like a roadmap to self-expression.
You could say that. He breaks down techniques, shares exercises,
Designed to help you tap into your unique style.
and then refine it, hone it, make it your own.
Okay, that sounds pretty useful, actually.
Especially if you're feeling stuck or unsure of how to start.
Because, let's face it, not all of us are born Poetry Slam champions.
Pinkwart seems to think that anyone can learn the craft.
With enough practice and the right guidance,
Exactly. It's about finding the tools that work for you,
and then using them to create something meaningful.
that resonates with your audience, that makes them feel something.
Because ultimately, that's what good communication is all about, right?
Connecting with others, sharing your thoughts and emotions.
And maybe even challenging a few norms along the way.
Just like Miss Parker and Miss Lane.
Those ladies were true pioneers.
They definitely made a statement.
So what's the next step on this journey of poetic self-discovery?
Well, I think it's time to dive into Pinkwart's book.
The Poetry Master.
Yep. Let's see what wisdom he has to offer.
I'm ready to unlock my inner poet.
And maybe even cause a little bit of chaos along the way.
Just like those rule-breaking ladies in Florida.
They definitely set a high bar.
But hey, if they could do it with opaque underwear,
We can definitely do it with words.
challenge accepted.
Exactly. It's like training a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Okay, so we've got our metaphorical boxing gloves on. We're ready to write.
Right.
But how do we make sure our words actually connect with the audience? Like, really land?
That's where the performance comes in. Remember Pinkwart calls the poet a puppeteer with a knife?
I still don't know how I feel about that analogy. It's a bit much, don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely strong imagery. But I think his point is about the power a good poet has
Okay.
to control, even manipulate the audience's emotions.
You're right, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah. A skilled poet can make you laugh 1 minute, cry the next, make you question everything you thought you knew.
That's true. It's like they're in control of your emotional journey.
Exactly.
And it goes back to that courtroom story, right? Miss Parker and Miss Lane, they knew how to work the room.
They did, didn't
They predicted what the prosecutor would do. They used the law to their advantage.
It's like they became the storytellers.
And everyone else was just along for the ride.
Exactly. And that's the kind of control Pinkwart wants poets to have over their audience.
So it's not enough to just have good ideas, good words on the page.
No, it's about how you deliver those words. The energy, the pacing, the emotion you put into it.
So basically, like any good performance, it's got to be engaging, captivating,
Exactly. Think of it like acting.
but with words as your script.
Precisely. And that takes practice, just like the writing.
Right, so we're back to those 10-minute morning scribbles.
Exactly. The more you practice both writing and performing.
The better you'll get at connecting with your audience, evoking those strong emotions.
Exactly. And this applies even beyond poetry slams, you know?
Really? How so?
Think about public speaking, presentations, even just everyday conversations.
Okay.
Knowing how to command attention, build suspense, make your message memorable.
These are all valuable skills no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. And they can be honed through the same principles Pinkwart outlines for poetry.
So it's not just about, like, being a good writer. It's about being a good communicator overall.
Exactly. It's a whole way of approaching how you interact with the world.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here.
Hmm.
But, most of us aren't going to be on stage anytime soon.
Right.
So how does all this translate to real life? Like, how can the average person use these ideas?
Well, I think the key takeaway is the idea of being intentional with your communication.
Intentional, what do you mean?
Like, think back to those women in the courtroom. They didn't just accidentally create that powerful moment. They
Yeah.
planned it. They thought about the rules, the context, who they were speaking to.
And then they crafted their actions to get the result they wanted.
Exactly. It was strategic.
So we can apply that same kind of strategic thinking to any communication, really.
Exactly. Whether you're writing an email, having a difficult conversation, even posting on social media,
It's about being mindful of the impact you want to have.
and choosing your words carefully to achieve that impact.
So it's not about manipulation, it's about,
Empowerment. Taking control of your own narrative, making your voice heard.
wow, I like that. Okay, I'm starting to get really excited about this whole mastering the rules thing.
Good. Because Pinkwart has a whole book that dives even deeper into these ideas.
The Poetry Master.
You got it. It's full of practical advice, techniques, exercises.
Designed to help you become a more effective communicator.
Exactly. Whether you want to write poetry, give presentations, or just have more engaging conversations.
Okay, so it's like a toolbox for anyone who wants to up their communication game.
You could say that.
So what are some of the key tools he offers in this toolbox? What can readers expect?
Well, he goes into detail about how to find your voice, how to be authentic.
Right, because that genuineness is what really connects with people.
Exactly. It's what makes you stand out, makes you memorable.
So he gives advice on how to tap into that inner authenticity.
Yep. And he offers specific techniques for refining your style, for making your words more impactful.
Interesting. So it's like a combination of self-discovery and skill building.
Exactly. It's about understanding who you are as a communicator.
And then honing those skills to become the best version of yourself.
Precisely. And I think that's something we can all benefit from.
Whether we're aspiring poets or just everyday people who want to connect with others more effectively.
Exactly. And the Poetry Master can be a great guide on that journey.
Right. I'm sold. I'm adding that to my reading list.
Good. Because Pinkwart has a lot to offer, even beyond the poetry world.
I'm starting to see that. And you know what? After this deep dive,
What's
I'm
new?
starting to see that courtroom story in a whole new light.
Oh,
It's not just about nudity and loopholes. It's about the power of communication
about making a statement, challenging the status quo.
and using your words to create a moment that people won't soon forget.
Exactly. And that's a powerful lesson we can all take away.
Whether we're on a stage, in a courtroom, or just having a conversation with a friend.
It's about making our words count.
So what's the next step on this journey to becoming a master communicator?
Well, I think we need to dive deeper into the Poetry Master
Okay, let's do it. Let's unlock the secrets of Pinkwart's approach.
and see how we can apply those lessons to our own lives.
I'm ready to unleash my inner wordsmith. And who knows, maybe even cause a little bit of chaos along the way.
Just like those rule-bending ladies in Florida.
They set the bar pretty high.
But hey, if they can do it with opaque underwear,
We can definitely do it with words.
challenge accepted.
And who knew a deep dive into poetry slams would start with opaque underwear in a courtroom?
Only on the deep dive, right?
You got that right. But it's funny how that whole, seemingly random story,
Right.
it actually ties into this bigger idea of communication and expressing yourself.
Pinkwart, he's a master at grabbing your attention with those stories, you know?
Yeah, he is.
He pulls a rabbit out of a hat, you never see it coming.
And it makes you think, how did he do that?
Exactly.
And that's kind of what he wants us to do with our own communication, isn't it?
It is.
Surprise people, challenge their expectations. Leave them
It let
thinking.
them feel something.
Oh, exactly.
Just like Miss Parker and Miss Lane did.
Speaking of which, I think there's a lesson there for all of us.
What's that?
They were willing to shake things up, you know,
Yeah.
to make people pay attention.
Challenge the status quo.
And they did it with a sense of humor.
They did, didn't they?
Who knew opaque underwear could make such a statement?
It's all about how you use it, right?
So, should we all be stocking up on strategically opaque underwear now?
Maybe not literally,
Okay.
but the point is we all have that power, you know,
To be disruptive,
to get people to listen.
whether it's through a poem
Mm-hmm.
or some well-timed underwear.
Exactly. Find your own way to express yourself, to make an impact.
So if you're feeling stuck or like things are getting stale,
Take a page from Pinkwart's book.
literally and figuratively, right?
Exactly.
Embrace that inner rule breaker.
Find your voice.
Don't be afraid to shake things up a bit.
And if all else fails,
There's always the opaque underwear trick.
that's our fallback plan.
Kidding. But seriously, folks,
Be creative.
be bold.
And don't be afraid to bend those rules a little.
And if you want to learn more from the master himself,
Stephen Pinkwart.
and check out his book, Poetry Master, Poetry Power in 7 Days.
It's full of great advice and inspiring stories.
That'll help you find your own poetic voice.
So be creative out there, Stefan.
And dear listeners, until next time, keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep diving deep.